Tonight, smothered by smoke.
I just was out on my balcony, and you can smell the smoke quite dramatically.
The impact heavy wildfire smoke is having on both sides of the border in what's shaping up to be a record-setting season. Also tonight, the latest on Manitoba's wildfire situation as northern communities struggle to contain multiple blazes. Plus, tariff tensions.
It's slightly shocking, it's jarring, it's terrifying.
Local businesses hold out hope for an 11th hour deal as the U.S. imposed deadline looms.
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
A city shrouded in smoke. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A blanket of wildfire smoke has settled on Winnipeg, leading to air quality warnings and forcing the cancellation of outdoor events. Standing by in studio with the details tonight is CTV's Danton Unger. So Danton, just how bad has the smoke been today?
Well, take a look, Marilee. This is a live shot from Polo Park facing downtown, and you can just see how thick the smoke and haze is. You can actually barely see the downtown skyline. And the smoke was so bad today, it forced the cancellation of a youth event here in the city, much to the disappointment of hundreds of young Winnipeggers.
Hazy, smoky skies settle on the empty field at the Sinclair Park Community Center. 600 kids were supposed to be enjoying a fun-filled day of activities in the sun here, all part of the Jumpstart Games. But instead, the event was stifled by wildfire smoke.
This is the first time in an over 10-year period that we've run the event that we've actually had to say we can't do it for everybody's safety. This latest cancellation comes as most of the province was blanketed with air quality warnings Thursday, while in Winnipeg, the air quality index reached 10+, indicating a very high risk.
This whole summer has just been really dominated by smoke, unfortunately.
Crawford Luke with Environment and Climate Change Canada says this year is the second smokiest year on record for Winnipeg, with 263 hours of smoke recorded so far, just 41 hours shy of breaking the record set in 1961.
This is possibly a record that we could be closing in on, given that we're already second place and we still have all of August and September to go ahead of us. So a smoky year for sure for Winnipeg.
And now even our neighbors to the south are feeling the effects more than 1,000 kilometers away.
I'll tell you one thing, the smoke is very evident. Air quality is unhealthy.
Retired U.S. meteorologist Tom Skilling in Chicago says wildfire smoke from Canada is drifting across Lake Michigan, combining with smoke from the western U.S., leaving his city shrouded in smoke.
I can only imagine what you folks in Canada are putting up with, being so close to this. It's an absolute tragedy. It really is. It doesn't.
Now, with this smoke, Marilee, Environment Canada warns several people are more likely to be impacted and should take precautions. This includes people aged 65 and up, those who are pregnant, infants and young children, people with chronic illnesses or health conditions, and people who are working outdoors.
Dan, speaking of outdoor workers, what are they supposed to do when it gets smoky like this outside?
Yeah, well, I spoke with the Construction Safety Association of Manitoba earlier about that, Marilee. The association says employers should try to limit strenuous activities if possible and provide proper PPE, which could be as simple as an N95 mask all the way up to a full respirator if needed.
All right, thanks for this, Danton. Let's bring Colleen Brady into the conversation now because with the nice temperatures today, a mask isn't the most comfortable thing outside, but part of the problem is the wind. Not strong enough to move this air. It's just kind of sitting over our city tonight.
Yeah, not very far. Part of this is that I've been talking about this surface ridge of high pressure that's been over our region, over southern Manitoba. We needed it to move. Basically, we've had that smoke trapped under the ridge. It has been moving very gradually and grudgingly, I'm trying to say the two words at once, off to the east, and that's allowed the winds to at least flip from the north where they were yesterday and come more out of the south now. Hasn't had much effect here in Winnipeg. We still have air quality warnings in effect, and I do want to take a quick look at that air quality health index for the city of Winnipeg. And once again, Environment Canada measuring the city's risk for poor air quality on a scale from 1 to 10+, 1 being low risk for poor air quality, another way to say it more simply, good air. We've been at a 10 plus pretty much for much of the day, and as we head into this evening, we are still at a 10 plus, meaning the air quality over the city is quite poor. Interestingly, though, air quality is also measured by Environment Canada over Flin Flon. Air quality has been much better there for much of the day, but still contending with a lot of very significant smoke with those wildfires continuing to burn. So we'll have a look at those details regarding how smoky it's been in Winnipeg, not just this month, but how Winnipeg stacks up in 2025 to other years that we've been contending with smoke in the city. That to come. Let's take a look right now through the Bath Fitter Live Eye. Bath Fitter, your bath and shower experts for more than 40 years. In Winnipeg right now, it's smoky, 24 degrees, winds light from the west at 14 kilometers an hour. The pressure's rising, and the humidity right now, Marilee, is 38%.
Thanks, Colleen. All that smoke, of course, the result of a number of wildfires burning in the province, and hot, dry conditions are causing an uptick in wildfire activity, especially in parts of the north. In particular, the city of Thompson says high temperatures and strong winds are feeding into the trio of fires north of the city, known collectively as the Thompson Complex. Directly north, crews and helicopters are working to contain the fire, which has now jumped the Burntwood River, opening up a new front in the battle. On the plus side, the city says crews have made good progress on the south end of the fire, which is roughly 14 kilometers from city limits. Meantime, the situation is said to be holding steady near the community of Snow Lake tonight. The town says the fire directly north remains the highest priority, but crews are handling it well. And as you can see on your screen, Highway 395 southwest of town is actually acting as a natural fire block. The town is hopeful crews can keep it contained long enough for it to die out naturally and not spread south. Our neighbors to the east are also busy battling a busy wildfire season. Today, Ontario's premier said his province is throwing everything it has at dozens of active wildfires in northern Ontario, but says what's really needed is a national strategy.
So when we were at the Council of Federation last week in Muskoka, this came up that we need a national fire strategy because we know when the floods are coming, we know when the fires are coming, and we need to be prepared. So I'll do anything for our great firefighters and invest as much as we can to make sure that we have the equipment to knock out these fires as quickly as they can come.
As of this afternoon, 52 active wildfires were reported in northern Ontario, including 3 new fires which broke out last night alone. Manitoba business owners are watching closely as trade negotiations between the U.S. and Canada reach the 11th hour. If a deal isn't struck today, 35% American tariffs come into force on a broad range of Canadian goods. This as companies are already dealing with tariffs and counter tariffs on other products like aluminum and steel. With the latest as the clock ticks down tonight is CTV's Jeff Keel. So Jeff, how are local businesses feeling as we approach this midnight deadline?
Well, obviously they would like a deal as soon as possible as the added costs and uncertainty are taking a toll.
Aluminum cans are a big part of the business at the Devil May Care Brewing Company in downtown Winnipeg.
We do use a lot of aluminum. We use a lot of cans, and that is the preferred format here in Manitoba.
Owner Colin Coop orders them from a stockpile in eastern Canada that precedes the 50% U.S. tariffs and 25% Canadian counter tariffs on aluminum. But at some point that supply will run out and the cans will be subject to tariffs.
It is slightly shocking, it's jarring, it's terrifying because, you know, this is one of our biggest expenditures.
So Coop would like to see a trade deal get done sooner rather than later.
So I'm hoping for it, or hoping for at least some sort of resolution.
If a trade agreement between Canada and the U.S. is not reached by Friday, 35% U.S. tariffs will be placed on a number of Canadian exports. Premier Wab Kinew has said it's better to get the right deal instead of rushing into the wrong one because of a deadline. Still, Manitoba businesses are anxious for a solution.
A bad deal is bad news, but no deal is almost just as harmful because the uncertainty is causing a lot of damage for small business operations.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says small businesses have had to eat a chunk of the increased costs from tariffs, so they are facing tough decisions.
Whether they have to raise their prices, delay expansion plans, or in the worst case, lay off some staff.
Any hope of an agreement without some form of U.S. tariff is likely long gone.
I would think that the Canadians are looking to get into, the lowest bucket of tariffs that's available.
Colin Coop has already accepted a U.S. tariff is here to stay.
We're prepared for it. I mean, emotionally prepared for it, maybe not actually financially prepared for it, but we'll figure it out when it happens.
And just to give you an idea of what this is costing businesses, the CFIB says tariffs are costing 63% of small businesses around $22,000 on average, and counter-Canadian tariffs are costing 70% of small businesses around $9,000 on average.
All right, thanks for this, Jeff. And we will have an update on those trade negotiations that are going on a little later in the newscast. To the by-election now in Elmwood, East Kildonan, where another candidate has thrown their hat in the ring to replace late City Councillor Jason Schreier. Abel Gutierrez is the fourth candidate confirmed for the Elmwood East Kildonan by-election. Gutierrez was born in Mexico and raised in Elmwood, where he's lived most of his life. He spent 20 years in the construction industry and is currently serving as a senior project manager. As we told you previously, 3 other candidates are also running: Emma Durand-Wood, Zachariah Salahadin, and Carmen Prefontaine. The by-election is scheduled for October 25th. You can find out more about the candidates by heading to our website, ctvnewswinnipeg.ca. The province is warning about a pair of potential measles exposures in southern Manitoba. It happened July 25th at the CW Weeb Medical Center Urgent Care in Winkler on July 25th between 3 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. and Boundary Trails Health Center Emergency Department between 10:15 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. the following day. Anyone who is at those locations during those times is encouraged to check their immunization records and monitor for symptoms for about 3 weeks. One person is in custody tonight following a large police presence that shut down parts of a North End street. Winnipeg police say officers arrived for a gun-related call on Mountain Avenue at Salter Street yesterday afternoon. North District Police were assisted by the tactical team. 7 units were on scene in response to the call. Police say the case will be followed up by the gang unit. RCMP in southern Manitoba are asking for your help after a large amount of fuel was stolen from a farmyard. It's believed the theft happened sometime between July 16th and 18th on a farm in the RM of Stanley, 7 miles south of Winkler. Mounties say around 900 gallons of diesel and 250 gallons of gas were siphoned out of fuel tanks. The combined value of the fuel is more than $5,500. Anyone with information is asked to call Carmen RCMP or Crime Stoppers. An iconic Winnipeg War Monument, which stood for more than 100 years, is now awaiting reinstallation. The statue of a First World War soldier had been a fixture on Portage in Maine since it was erected outside the Bank of Montreal building in 1923. The Manitoba Métis Federation purchased the building in 2020 and donated the monument to the city of Winnipeg. Construction to reopen the intersection to pedestrian traffic meant the statue had to come down. Recent posts circulating on social media have suggested the statue was dumped in a junkyard. However, an MMF spokesperson tells CTV News the statue is being temporarily housed at a storage facility. The MMF says it fully intends to follow through on its commitment to install the monument at Brookside Cemetery's Field of Honor. The installation is planned for this fall with a public ceremony. Meanwhile, a monument to honor Chief Peguis and the first treaty signed in Manitoba is facing more delays. That statue was originally planned for 2024, but is now expected to be done in the latter part of next year. A representative of the group planning the memorial says there have been legal, administrative, and other issues over the past year. We are told work on the statue is well underway. The monument is planned for the northwest section of the Manitoba Legislature grounds. As we approach the August-long weekend, the Life Saving Society is encouraging you to leave the drinks on shore if you plan on heading out on the water. The organization says more than half of all boating-related fatalities in Manitoba between 2018 and 2022 involved booze. It also notes the sun, wind, and rocking motion of the boat greatly increases the risk when combined with alcohol. On top of that, you can risk impaired operation charges even if your boat doesn't have a motor. Still to come tonight, the trade deadline is now just hours away. We'll tell you where things stand in Trump's trade war and why some say Canada shouldn't be rushing to make a deal. We'll explain next. Canada's economy contracted for a second straight month in May, but there were signs of a rebound in June. Statistics Canada says the mining, quarrying, and oil and gas sectors were mainly to blame for the decline, but manufacturing grew slightly, offsetting the drop in April when those U.S. tariffs took full effect. Turning to the markets now, crude oil lost 74 cents. The loonie dropped to 72.23 cents U.S. Gold futures fell more than $4. The TSX also closed 110 points lower. The Dow Jones lost 330 points, while the Nasdaq made a slight adjustment. A trade deal deadline now just hours away, and so is a looming tariff increase. U.S. President Donald Trump is set to sign new executive orders, including for Canada, which is set to face an increased 35% tariff unless the two sides agree to a new deal, or Canada can land an extension like Mexico did today. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced today a 90-day extension to negotiate a new deal on tariffs. Canada doesn't have a deal yet, and there is no indication so far we'll get the same extension.
I believe we're reaching a great agreement because it remains as is for now.
A similar agreement would, of course, help Canada, though. Experts have said the Carney government shouldn't be rushing to get a deal done, as the CUSMA deal already in place gives Canada a better starting point than most. And today, a sign of encouragement for Canada's aluminum sector. In the wake of Ford Motor Company reporting a substantial hit from tariffs, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC today that Ford relies heavily on aluminum, and Washington will take that into account at the negotiating table.
I believe that the Ford, F-150, 250, their big truck series is made out of aluminum instead of steel, which is different than other cars. So I think maybe the aluminum tariffs have hit them harder. We will be negotiating with Canada on those.
As it stands, Canada faces an increased tariff of 35% on goods not covered under CUSMA as of tomorrow. Now, most countries that have so far landed a tariff deal with Trump have faced a baseline lower tariff of 15% across the board. Some experts have suggested if Canada can get the same, but only on non-CUSMA products, it would be seen as a win. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Ottawa.
Donald Trump linked Canada's pledge to recognize Palestinian statehood with the ongoing trade negotiations. Beyond just the U.S. president's negative response, Canada's announcement yesterday has received a range of reactions. CTV's Abigail Bimman now on Canada's diplomatic move and the timing of the decision.
News Canada intends to recognize Palestinian statehood lands with hope on the streets of Gaza. This teacher thanks Canada and feels the world is beginning to wake up.
The level of human suffering in Gaza is intolerable, and it's rapidly deteriorating.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister posted this photo saying Canadian aid is beginning to enter Gaza and thanking Jordan for facilitating an airdrop. Fighting over what falls, Gazans say airdropped food is like a dog chasing a bone. The U.S.'s special envoy landed in Jerusalem, while the president mixed foreign policy and trade, posting in the middle of the night, Canada's decision will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, apostrophe, Canada.
This is just Trump trying to use yet another tactic to put pressure on Canada. And I'm frankly very proud that the Prime Minister and his government made that decision, even though no doubt somebody was telling them that this could impact the trade negotiations.
I think the government is putting the cart before the horse here.
The Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs is concerned the government didn't tie its conditions to the release of hostages or the immediate removal of Hamas, worried it will embolden the terrorist group.
Conceivably, we're going to have Canada recognize a Palestinian state where Gaza is still under the control of Hamas, and innocent Israelis are still being held hostages in the terror dungeons of Gaza.
CJA says there is increased fear and concern in the Canadian Jewish community in the wake of the government's decision, fear of even more anti-Jewish hate and attacks. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Canada and the U.S., as well as several European allies, have issued a joint statement calling out Iran and alleging a surge in threats posed by the country's intelligence services. The group's statement says the countries are united in their opposition to Iranian operatives' efforts to kill, kidnap, and harass people in Europe and North America. It says Tehran is increasingly collaborating with criminal organizations to target journalists, dissidents, Jewish citizens, as well as current and former officials. The statement continues, quote, "This is unacceptable." Iranian officials haven't immediately commented. Back in October, Reuters reported Iran was behind a wave of attempted assassinations and abductions across Europe, as well as the United States. A flight attendant on board the Delta Airlines flight, which crashed at Toronto Pearson Airport last winter, is now suing the airline. The plane, which had 80 people on board, crashed and flipped onto its roof while coming in for a landing on February 17th. The flight attendant, who wasn't working but was a passenger on board, is suing the airline for $75 million U.S. over injuries she suffered, alleging Delta assigned an inexperienced pilot to the flight, showing a, quote, reckless disregard for passenger safety. Ontario has paid a fee to break a $100 million contract with Elon Musk's satellite internet company, Starlink. And Premier Doug Ford weighed in on that decision today.
I had meetings with them actually last week and saying, hey, we got to get moving on this. And it's unfortunate we had to cancel that, but I can't deal with a guy that, well, I guess the divorce happened between him and Trump, but the guy was attacking our country, and I just couldn't do it.
The contract was first announced last year with a goal of improving internet access in northern and rural Ontario. But the deal came under fire amid trade tensions with the U.S., especially while owner Elon Musk was serving in the Trump administration. Premier Ford is refusing to reveal how much it cost taxpayers to get out of the Starlink deal, but says the province will now pursue new internet deals with other providers. A judge in Quebec has delayed his decision on whether to grant bail to 3 men facing terrorism charges. It's in connection to an alleged plot revealed earlier this month in which 3 men in their 20s are accused of planning to forcibly seize land in the Quebec City area. They face a range of charges, including facilitating a terrorist activity. A judge was expected to rule today on whether to grant them bail, but has now told lawyers he needs more time. A 4th accused faces weapons charges. The Canadian Armed Forces confirms 2 of the men were active members of the military at the time of their arrests on July 8th. In Alberta, the debate over whether to remain part of Canada is getting closer to coming to a vote. The province's chief electoral officer has said a citizen initiative can start gathering the necessary signatures to put a question on the ballot. It asks, do you agree Alberta should remain in Canada? At the same time, the chief electoral officer referred a competing referendum question to the courts. It asked, do you agree the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? He says he took that step to see if the proposal contravenes the Constitution. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has asked officials to withdraw the referral. A Canadian successfully knocked back a few cold ones on his way to setting a new world record.
Runner set, jog!
Ontario's Corey Belmore won his 5th straight beer mile World Classic, breaking his own world record. Belmore drank 4 beers and ran 4 laps in a time of 4 minutes and 27 seconds. It's one way to get you running. All right, still to come tonight, Canadians raising concerns about Canada Post's service.
You can't lose registered mail. That's absolutely insane.
The story of 2 viewers who say they paid extra to send important documents, but they never showed up.
And all throughout the long-range forecast for Winnipeg, daytime highs pretty consistent, right around 27 degrees, including all throughout the August long weekend just around the corner. Sunshine Saturday up to 27, ditto Sunday, more of a mix of sun and cloud as we get into holiday Monday. Then we get into Tuesday, Wednesday. There's a low chance developing of showers Tuesday, again up to 27. We'll do that again temperature-wise on Wednesday with an increasing chance of a few showers passing through.
Have a news tip? When you see news happening, let CTV News Winnipeg know. Text your tips, pictures, and videos to 10400. That's 10400. Message and data rates may apply.
55,000 Canada Post workers have until this Friday to vote on the Crown Corporation's most recent and so-called final offer. The negotiations come at a time when some Canadians and businesses have expressed frustration with some of its services. CTV's Pat Foran explains.
Ethan Thorogood of Toronto has volunteered to help children's causes in Africa. He decided to go to Kenya and Ghana for 3 months this summer to continue his humanitarian work. In the spring, he used Express Post to mail his passport, proof of vaccines, and other documents to the Ghana consulate in the GTA.
I checked back a few days later to see where it was at, being delivered to the consulate, and it was lost and nowhere to be found.
Once the documents were officially declared lost, Thorogood had to scramble to replace all the missing paperwork at an additional cost to him of $750.
Cost a lot financially and certainly emotionally as well.
He was able to get new paperwork in time to make the trip. Canada Post gave him $100, the maximum insurance for Express Post. His mother, Lara, felt he deserved much more.
He's going to volunteer, and that $750 would come in very, very handy, either towards his flight or helping the kids while he's there.
A Canada Post spokesperson told CTV News, "We apologize to the customer and recognize the importance of meeting the expectations of Canadians across the country."
This is actually the registered mail tag.
Sarah Isaacs of Mississauga had to mail confidential documents in February for a family member. They were medical records for her insurance company.
Because it's confidential medical information, I said I'm going to send it through Canada Post as a registered letter.
Isaacs kept checking to see when her registered letter would arrive. More than 5 months later, Canada Post still has no idea where it went.
They lost my letter, and now they're basically saying they refuse to do anything about it.
Canada Post told CTV News, "This is an unfortunate situation, and we apologize to the customer that their registered letter still has not been delivered." Canada Post says it takes it very seriously whenever a letter, package, or parcel goes missing. Isaacs is frustrated her family's private documents have disappeared.
You can't lose registered mail. That's absolutely insane.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
Colleen Brady back now with your complete Skywatch forecast. And it's really too bad this smoke is, causing outdoor plans to be canceled because the temperatures are great, not too hot.
No, but they will be heating up, particularly in parts of northern Manitoba, under a heat warning in addition to the air quality warnings. Also, what's interesting, too, is the smoke here in Winnipeg. Unfortunately, record-setting. I want to show you a couple of statistics shared with us by Environment and Climate Change Canada. As it turns out, with July ending today, it is not only the smokiest July on record for Winnipeg, it is the smokiest month on record for the city of Winnipeg. As of 1 o'clock this morning, 172 hours of smoke were observed in the city. 2nd August 1961 with 163 hours of smoke, but then you see much more recently in third spot there, July 2021, 137 hours, followed quite closely in behind by August of that year. As for the smokiest years on record, as measured by the wildfire season, generally considered to extend from April through to October, 1961 still the smokiest year in the city with 304 hours on record, but 2025 is going to give 1961 a run for its money, even in the next couple of days. As of 1 o'clock this morning, 263 hours were recorded, and several more hours of smoke have been recorded since then. But you can see 3rd, 4th, and 5th place were all just in the last couple of years as well. As for visibility, obviously compromised too by the smoke. To give you some perspective, between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock this morning out at Winnipeg Airport, visibility dropped from 15 kilometers down to just 6. Most of the day, visibility was at about 8 kilometers an hour. Contrast that with Lynn Lake, where for much of the day, visibility was anywhere from just 400 to 600 meters in the midst of all that smoke there. So we do have those air quality warnings that continue for both places like Lynn Lake up in the northwest and Winnipeg down here in the southeast. Also interesting, though, you can see where the smoke has actually lessened enough for the warning to come down out in parts of the southwest around Brandon. Conversely, we've seen expanded air quality warnings as far north now as the Nunavut border and to the east as well, as you saw there, into northwestern Ontario. Additionally, we have that heat warning that remains in effect for Lynn Lake, Flin Flon and the Paw regions. This means hot highs approaching 30 degrees over the next 3 days or so. Not much relief overnight with warm overnight lows in the mid to upper teens. Aside from that, there's a warm front pushing across northern Manitoba tonight that could trip off a thunderstorm here or there. It's a low risk anyway, but still worth mentioning. Into tomorrow morning we go. A lot of areas would otherwise be sunny were it not for the widespread smoke. Temperatures heating up in the south as well. And then as you get into the start of the long weekend, again, a sunny start, but well, it would be were it not for hopefully some of that smoke will have started to move off by then. Not tonight, though. Widespread smoke down, not widespread smoke. It's widespread smoke tomorrow morning as well. And 27 is the hot high tomorrow. Again, that bomber game is still scheduled for tomorrow evening. Now we've got that smoke continuing across parts of northern Manitoba, not so much up for Gillam and Churchill, but Thompson certainly 13 degrees there, more smoke tomorrow, 28. Widespread smoke across much of the northwest tonight. Sunny in the Paw tomorrow, more localized smoke up to 30 degrees there. Clearer through Swan River and Dauphin tonight, down to just 9 degrees. 8 for Brandon, widespread smoke. Mix of sun and cloud or sunshine around the region. Daytime highs up to 26, 27. Again, smoky here in the southeast. Overnight lows, a bit of a range, 12 overnight for Winnipeg. Sunny for Barons River, but localized smoke expected there. Widespread smoke expected for much of the rest of the region, including Winnipeg and into northwestern Ontario. A localized smoke, otherwise clearer sky conditions. Sunshine tomorrow with highs in the mid-20s. Let's take a look at our first weather photo. It takes us out to Gimli Harbor. That photo is from Ian. And this next shot, there it is. It's out at Otter Falls. That photo is from Ed Smokey there as well. Send us your weather photos to winnipegweather@ctv.ca.
Thanks, Colleen. A Jets defenseman who just signed a multi-million-dollar contract says he's happy to put down roots in Winnipeg and enjoy some pasta.
I've definitely found that there's a lot of good hole-in-the-wall restaurants around Winnipeg, especially Italian restaurants. So that's been good.
As we showed you yesterday, the Jets have made a 3-year deal with Dylan Samberg. It's worth $5.75 million per season. The 26-year-old set career highs in goals and points last season. Samberg says Winnipeg is a great place to play hockey, and Manitoba reminds him of his home in Minnesota.
It reminds me a lot of home. Just less trees up there, but everything, the weather's the same from where I grew up, and everything's pretty much the same, and everyone's really been nice and welcoming, which is great.
The Jets finished with the best regular season record in the NHL last season, but the team was eliminated in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Jets begin the season September 21st against the Minnesota Wild, Samberg's home state. Still to come tonight, a promising new drug.
So it's a relatively novel mechanism in multiple myeloma.
There are new options in the treatment of multiple myeloma. Medical Watch is next.
Get Winnipeg's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a flurry of trade activity ahead of the midnight deadline to reach a trade deal. And if a deal isn't reached, 35% tariffs could hit a number of goods in this country. And joining me now to talk more about everything at play as the clock ticks down is Moshe Lander, economics professor at Concordia University. Moshe, good to speak with you.
You set the bar there low. We're going to talk about everything, right?
That's right. Yesterday, because there is a lot has happened even in just the last couple days. Yesterday, Trump ended a tariff loophole allowing low-cost goods to be imported into the U.S. duty-free, and also announced a 50% tariff on copper. Any idea what kind of impact that will have?
The impact will show up months, if not years from now. And that's the important thing to keep in mind. We just got GDP data today that showed that the economy shrank by 0.1 of a percentage point in May. And so the worst thing that can happen now is for Canadians to shrug and say, well, I guess these tariffs aren't doing a lot of damage. When you're trying to move the ship of state around, it's like moving one of these huge luxury liners, and it doesn't happen that quickly. So we're going to see that the longer that this uncertainty remains, even if the tariffs eventually go away, the damage is probably being done and accumulating in that it's going to take time for people to realize that, oh, we don't have as many goods available to us, the prices are higher, businesses are scaling back, jobs are being lost. And the same thing, of course, is going to happen on the other side of the border as well.
All right, the sooner a deal gets done, the better then, sounds like it. Does Canada have any leverage in these trade negotiations?
Not much. And you've seen that even though we have probably the most ideal prime minister to be negotiating this, he does have an economics background and he is a former successful head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. So he really does understand economics. The problem is that Canada doesn't have a lot of leverage here, in part because you're dealing with a crazy person and it's really hard to negotiate crazy. But the other part of it is that where Trump says that the U.S. doesn't need Canada, he's completely wrong. But the thing is that Canada needs the U.S. more than the U.S. needs Canada. And so within those negotiations, he realizes that because he's calling the shot and because he has the leverage, he can do whatever damage he wants. And while it will hurt the U.S. economy, remember that when we're trading $500 billion in each direction of goods and services, their economy is 12 times larger than ours. So that number is much less consequential than it is to us.
Is there an ideal solution that can benefit both sides, other than CUSMA, which at this point looks like it's off the table?
Well, then it's how close can we get to CUSMA? That's the whole thing, is that over the last 90 years, what countries have been doing is moving towards deeper economic integration, more economic interdependence, less quotas, less tariffs, because the economics textbooks at the intro level have it soundly correct. Trade benefits both countries. Now, the gains might not be evenly spread among the two sides or among the people within the countries, but if we're going to address any sort of social issues or environmental issues, the most important thing is to have as much free trade as possible. And so if we're going to move away from that, then let's move the least amount necessary and hope that at some point in the future, somebody's going to realize that, yeah, there is still damage that's being done, and it's a quick jump back to what we had just 6 months ago.
Now, the Bank of Canada held its interest rate yesterday for the third straight time. Is that the right move, given the uncertainty Canadians are facing right now?
Absolutely the right move. And I have a feeling that we might see the same thing happen in September as well. I know Canadians are itching because they want lower interest rates, especially with so many people having to renegotiate their mortgages over the last couple of months of this year and into 2026. But the important thing to recognize is that the tariffs are showing a little bit of damage already to the Canadian economy. Yes, the economy is shrinking. That would necessitate an interest rate cut. But core inflation, the part that strips out the volatile food and energy prices, is actually starting to creep up towards the upper end of the Bank of Canada's comfort zone. That would actually necessitate an increase in interest rates. So right now what the Bank of Canada is doing is trying to walk that fine line in the middle, saying can't increase them, but we can't decrease them either until we get a clear picture of which of these forces is winning out. Let's just kick it down the line and we'll meet again in 6 weeks and discuss it after Labor Day.
Should be an interesting evening watching this all play out. Moshe, I want to thank you for weighing in. Always great to hear your thoughts.
Anytime.
A recall to tell you about tonight involving a children's toy sold here in Canada. Health Canada says the KidCraft farm-to-table model play kitchen is being recalled over a strangulation hazard. The agency says if a child is on top of the play set, it's possible they could fall through the back and have their clothing snagged on one of the hooks. There's been one report of a child in the U.S. dying this way, but no reports of injuries here in Canada, where nearly 6,000 of the units were sold. You're told to stop using the product and contact KidCraft for replacement parts. Health Canada has approved a new drug to treat multiple myeloma. It attacks the cancer in a new way and offers more options for patients. CTV's Pauline Chan reports.
When Mary Ann Tuomi was admitted to hospital during the pandemic with severe back pain, she was quickly tested for multiple myeloma. But she says some patients can go years without a correct diagnosis, so she credits Myeloma Canada with increasing awareness.
Information for doctors that when patients present themselves with back pain, long-term back pain, that to check this for a protein in the blood that could be an indicator.
It's solely adults that are affected by myeloma, not children. And it does tend to be older adults.
Multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells. Mary Ann underwent an autologous stem cell transplant in 2021, but that doesn't get rid of 100% of the cancer.
It's like you have a big field of dandelions. And what the treatment does, it takes the field and it gives a weeding of all the dandelions, but there's still a few.
That's why new medications like Blenrep are so important.
So the drug both activates the patient's immune system against the cancer cell, also delivers the drug that helps kill this particular malignant cell. So it's a relatively novel mechanism in multiple myeloma.
Health Canada has just approved its use in combination with one of 2 other drugs. There are currently several thousand patients living with multiple myeloma in Canada, but with new drugs to improve survival, the hope is that number will grow. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manuke and Koster Denture Clinic.
You might call it one magical evening when you can catch the final Harry Potter movie alongside the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra next in Spotlight.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Led Zepp again, the premier tribute.
Now's your chance to see and hear the dramatic conclusion to the Harry Potter series like never before.
The boy who lived, come to die.
Tickets are now on sale for the final performance in the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra's Harry Potter concert series. The WSO will provide full orchestral accompaniment to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 over 3 nights this fall. Shows are scheduled for October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Head over to WSO.ca or call the box office for tickets. Fun fact, today, July 31st, is Harry Potter's birthday. Get this, folks, making him 45 years old. You're welcome. The rumor mill is buzzing after a very notable fan was spotted at last night's Katy Perry concert in Montreal. Justin Trudeau was in the crowd at the Bell Centre Wednesday night, taking in the pop star's Lifetimes tour. It comes just days after the two were seen having dinner at a posh Montreal restaurant. TMZ posting this video of Trudeau and Perry, who recently split from her husband, or fiance, I believe, actually, Orlando Bloom, sharing a meal before going for a stroll, sparking dating rumors. Tens of thousands of Deadheads are heading to San Francisco this weekend to mark the 60th anniversary of the Grateful Dead. Dead & Company will play 3 days of concerts at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco to honor the group's psychedelic 60s origins. Original Grateful Dead members Bob Weir and Mickey Hart will be part of the shows. And outside the shows, vendors on Shakedown Street, the legendary Grateful Dead marketplace, will be selling lots of their tie-dye and other merchandise. At last count, there were more than 800 Grateful cover bands performing in the United States. We'll beat those midweek blues with the Rookies starting at 8, then wind down with E-Talk at 10:30, all right here on CTV.
The Manitoba Beach community's history being brought to life in a new museum.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
Tonight, deal or no deal?
We haven't spoken to Canada today. He's called, and we'll see.
What's at stake as time runs out to strike a last-minute trade agreement with the U.S.? That story and more later on CTV National News.
And with that smoke hanging over the city, it is 24 degrees. Winds out of the west at 14 kilometers an hour. With the humidex, it feels slightly warmer, 25. The air quality warning continuing tonight for Winnipeg and much of Manitoba and northwestern Ontario. 25 degrees was the highest temperature today. We have to go back 99 years for the record for this day. 36.7 degrees set on July 31st that year. 12 our overnight low, smoke continuing tonight. And on Friday, otherwise it would be sunny Friday, 27 degrees, and then 27 all throughout. Not just the long weekend, merrily, but well into the middle of next week. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, sunshine or a mix of sun and cloud into a Tuesday, Wednesday. That's when we start to see the chance of showers starting to develop again.
Thanks, Colleen. An Interlake Museum is offering visitors a glimpse into the community's past.
They used to call it the Coney Island of the North.
The Winnipeg Beach Historical Society's museum opened this past weekend in a former candy store on Robinson Avenue. Vintage photos and posters pepper its walls, but the crown jewel is a 12 by 8 foot diorama depicting the town in the early 1940s, and it includes a roller coaster, a schoolhouse, town hall, and dance pavilion. It was created by longtime resident Peter Shaw and was stored in a basement.
I really believe that people come to Winnipeg Beach because they're looking for a reminder of a happier, gentler time. And that's really what we're trying to cultivate with the Historic Society, is just celebrating the history.
The museum hopes to add more interactive elements to the space in the future and has put out a call for photos, vintage items, and memorabilia related to Winnipeg Beach. Along with the museum, the Historical Society has a 34-stop walking tour through the community and is raising money for a visitor center it hopes to create in a 1942 CPR caboose. How cool would it be if they brought that roller coaster back?
Yeah.
That looks pretty fun.
It does look like a lot of fun, doesn't it? Very big.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a landmark for many years, of course, up in that community.
Yeah,
bring back the roller coaster.
People were reminiscing about it with us once we looked at that diorama. Well, maybe you're heading out to Winnipeg Beach this weekend. You can check out the diorama for yourself.
There you go. Looks beautiful.
Look at the smoke over the city. Be careful if you're outside tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with more news. Have a great evening.